You see these things on the internet, whether it's your dream body, dream amount of money, dream house, dream car, and you wish you had those things. That feeling of want, that feeling of I need this while you're looking at that video, but then you scroll on to the next. And you continue doing what you do daily, which has got you to where you are currently. And this made me question why most people never see progress and how I broke out of that loop. I too used to lay in my bed, scroll on the internet, drown myself in games and procrastinate. That's all I knew what to do, and I didn't really care about anything else other than just spending my days watching things, playing games. Doing all these things eventually did lead me to not developing myself, and because of that I felt lost, didn't have much confidence. I didn't really have that many experience. My childhood is basically a blur because I spent a majority of my time as a child drowning myself in these things. I didn't do anything meaningful. I didn't go on a hike. I didn't take part in a sport. I wasn't part of a team. I wasn't really that popular in school. I had about 4 real friends that I stuck around with, and everyone else I didn't really care about. But that made sense because with everything I was doing on my day-to-day, it would result in those things. Now we can apply that to the average person. The things that they do on a day-to-day leads to where they are going. So if they're procrastinating, then you're going to get results of being a procrastinator. If you're doing the things that help you get your dream body, the result is you're going to get your dream body. That's the concept. I'm going to use myself as an example because I feel like a lot of people can relate to my story, as I do feel like it is something every person experiences. I wasn't doing the things to actually give me confidence, make me speak better. I never put myself in situations, in those group situations. I didn't speak to new people. I just stayed around with the people I knew and stayed comfortable. I didn't know what getting out of my comfort zone meant. And I do feel like everyone has their trigger. And for me, my trigger was getting bullied, not getting any female attention, and wanting things that I saw on social media. So for example, people getting girls, having confidence, things like that made me want to change. And that was my trigger. Everyone has their own trigger. You don't realize you want to change or can change until that trigger happens. So I was content. I was so happy with waking up every day and playing video games straight after school. I was so happy with that life until something happened to me, until I had a realization, and that was my trigger. And the realization for me, the trigger for me, was not being able to get women, not being attractive, getting bullied in school, not being able to fight for myself, not being able to defend myself, and just being too easy to get pushed around. And that was my trigger for me. Your trigger needs to have an emotional impact on you that makes you want to change. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, well, nothing's changed in the past year, 2 years, and I'm not really sure why. Let me tell you why. You're comfortable with your life, so you see no problem with it. I can use my middle brother as an example. He does what I used to do when I was little, play video games, hours on end, and just works. He sees nothing wrong with that. He doesn't go to the gym, he doesn't do a combat sport, he doesn't do anything to get healthy, he doesn't watch his diet, he doesn't do any of that. But that's his idea of a comfortable life. And I can't have a go at him at that. If that's his idea of a comfortable life, I can't change anything about that. And that might be where you guys are at now. You're in a headspace where everything's comfortable. Your life, you can live it for the rest of your life. But until you have that trigger, that's when you can actually start making the steps into getting something you want. So if you have this comfortable life, but maybe you want a dream body and you've done no action on that, then I can only ask you why. I can only ask you why. And you might say you're lazy, you can't be bothered, things like that. Then you haven't had a strong enough emotional trigger. Because trust me, if you wanted it, you'd do it. You'd start implementing things day by day to actually get you to where you want to be, this idea of where you want to be. But if you're not doing that, then you haven't had a strong enough or even a trigger at all, and you like where you are at the moment, so you don't want to change. You'll stay in your comfort zone. Now let me segue into a part that I also experienced when you can be experiencing this emotional trigger. And it's, you have all these emotions, you want to change, you're embarrassed with your body, maybe you want more money, etc., etc. You want all these things. You're stressed about not making money. You want all these things, right? And that is a strong enough emotional trigger, as long as you start taking the steps towards it and implementing it. Then there is self-doubt. I have experienced this so many times. I've experienced myself. I'd argue everyone experiences it when they're trying to change, when they're trying to do something that they want to achieve. And that is the self-doubt. I experienced this when I started my coaching business. I experienced this when I started posting on social media. I started even doing it when I started posting on YouTube. What if it doesn't work? Right? What if I don't see any progress in this? What if I get bullied for this? What will people think? All these what ifs, and that is self-doubt. And my problem isn't that everyone experiences self-doubt, because it's natural. My problem is when it takes control of you. The amount of potential futures that have been crushed to self-doubt frustrates me. And that self-doubt is dangerous if you don't identify it. It can pull you back into your comfort zone and keep you where you've been trying to escape from. And personally, how do I get around that? Because I've faced that battle multiple times and I've come out on top, because I'm still doing the things that I'm doing now to get me to where I want to be. And I had those fights of self-doubt. So how did I actually break through that loop? And before I go into actually how I broke the loop, I'd argue that this is an endless battle. In anything you try to do, if you're continuously trying to do better things for yourself, self-doubt will always be part of the equation. And I don't think anyone can do anything about it, but other than know how to navigate it and not let it influence your actions. So how do you actually do that? Well, for me, when I was starting my coaching business and beginning to train, self-doubt was always there. You beat self-doubt with two things: action and progress. With action, if you program yourself to, when you have any self-doubt question, just know that you're still going to do the thing that you want. So when that self-doubt question creeps up, acknowledge it, but know that it's not going to influence your actions and you're still going to show up and do the things every day. And this leads to the second point, which is progression. You will see progress if you show up to whatever you're doing day by day, week by week. It will compound and you will see progress. And when you see progress, depending on what you're doing, you could see it instantly, you can see it in 3 months, you could see it in a year. All these things, progress will wipe that question out of your brain. Do you think when I'm training, I notice the difference in a mirror, that I'm getting bigger, my abs are showing, I'm getting stronger? Do you think that self-doubt question still creeps into my mind saying, will this work? Will I get bigger? No, absolutely not. That question disappears. Once you see progress, the question disappears and it deals with the self-doubt. But that can only happen if you acknowledge the question when it shows up, when you're not seeing any progress, but still choose to do the things that allow you to see progress. And that is the difference between a quitter and someone that actually does things, an action taker. If you quit as soon as that question comes up, how are you going to see any progress? You can't deal with the self-doubt unless you see progress. And the only way to see progress is to keep doing it day by day. Point when someone turns from a quitter to an action taker is when they listen to that question. What if I actually can't do this? But they still do it. They still do it and they still get the progress in. In a sense, you need to build a new identity to change from the identity you've been living this comfortable life in. You need to change as a person. And how do you actually change? That is from doing the things that you need to do. And again, you won't even realize that you need to change your identity until you've had that emotional trigger. The emotional trigger can be inflicted upon you by yourself or things around you, like heartbreak, getting bullied. But if it's inflicted by you, maybe you've been scrolling on social media and you see someone with a life that you think, well, I'm only going to live once, so I might as well live a life I want to live. And you see this life on social media and you say to yourself, I really, really do want this. How can I actually get to that point? That can be your emotional trigger. You could summarize this whole video into 2 words, and that is take action. It may not be as easy as saying it, but from someone that's done it, from someone that's changed their identity from that skinny, insecure, unconfident kid to business owner, calisthenics athlete, all these things, it's a complete different identity shift. And what was the difference between the insecure skinny kid and the business owner? The insecure skinny kid didn't do anything. He didn't take action. He didn't do anything. He did procrastination and a lot of self-doubt. The business owner takes action, less procrastination, and less self-doubt because he's seeing progress because of his actions. You need to change your identity to actually break out of this endless loop. Why do you think so many people, the average person, lives their whole life working a 9-to-5 job and then retire at such a late age? Their idea of that is the normal life. Their idea of that is the comfort. Their idea of that is just live that simple life. There was no emotional trigger. There was nothing. So how do they expect to change if they don't have a trigger? So if you're watching this and you haven't experienced a trigger, maybe you don't want to force a heartbreak on yourself. But personally, heartbreak is one of the best things that can happen to a man. But you can inflict this onto yourself. If you look into social media, if you know anyone with money, you can talk to them, you can influence yourself in a sense, you can educate yourself and make yourself aware that there are these possible lives you could be living if you took different steps to what you're doing day to day currently. It may just be as simple as losing some weight. It may just be simple as gaining some weight, gaining some muscle, going from that skinny kid to the built person I am now. These are all shifts you can just influence yourself on. For example, looking into the mirror when you're fat or skinny and being embarrassed, that feeling crushes you. And you can use that fuel, you can use that pain, the depression, the lack of confidence, you can use that as an emotional trigger. That's what I mean by you can inflict this trigger onto you. I can leave you guys with something before I end this video, and it's just take action. Like, if you live a comfortable life and you want the change, but you've just been in this loop of being comfortable, procrastinating, scrolling on your phone when you should be doing something that will get you to where you actually want to be. You need to realize that what you're doing now is not going to get you to where you want to be. And if you really did want it, you need to change. You need to change this identity. You need to rip it away from you. You need to change this identity of procrastinating to someone that takes action, because once you see progress, the self-doubt goes away. But be careful, be ready, because it's not an easy road. It's a lot of mental toll, especially if it's something related to gym or just making yourself healthier, but also on the business side as well. It's not a smooth road. You're going to be questioning a lot of things mentally. No hard road was walked within your comfort. You're going to experience bumps, you're going to be uncomfortable, but there's a reason why not everyone walks that path. They want the comfortable life, so they'll have the comfortable results. If you take the hard path, you'll have the things that many people do not have. It's quite simple. This video is more of a personal one, and it's a message to my younger self. I'm happy that I've done what I've done to get to where I am now, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to get to where I want to be. And if you guys want to follow my journey, subscribe. I post a video every weekend. Let me know in the comments of what you think. Share your own thoughts. I'd like to have a conversation with you guys in the comments. Check out my TikTok and Instagram. Maybe that can be an emotional trigger for you, where you get to see me do the things I do, and hopefully that can influence you to want to change. I love hearing how I've influenced others to do better. It's an amazing feeling, and it means the world to me.